Good morning, everyone. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. Well, this morning, I made a great big pot of chili, so I'm going to can that up. Now, the recipe that I use for chili is pretty simple. I took a big container, I bought it from Costco, of minced beef, and you know what their sizes are like. I'm afraid I didn't really measure, but this is what I do. I took a very large chunk of ground beef. I don't know, it could have been 4 pounds, don't know. And I used 4 quart jars of my tomato puree. I also used 3 small onions and 1.5 green pepper. And so the onions and the green pepper were chopped up, fried up with the minced beef. And once that was a little bit golden brown, you know, cooked a little bit, then I added my tomato puree. And I also took probably what amounted to, well, let's say, about 3 cups of dried beans. And I use kidney beans. You can use other beans, whatever you want, but I had kidney beans in stock, and we've used kidney beans for chili quite often. So I put those in my little pressure cooker. And I cooked them up a little longer than they should because they were, you know, they've been in the cupboard for a while. They've been in my pantry for a while. They're a little dry, so I cooked them up probably about double the amount of time that I needed to get them to soften up somewhat. And that made a good chunk of beans. And then I strained all that. So I didn't use the bean water. I used, you know, just the beans themselves. Excuse me. And added them to my big pot of chili, cooked them up. I got Marquette spices, and we used, you know, hot chili. We used cumin, salt, some garlic powder, a few other things perhaps. But that's the main ingredients there. So cooked that all up, made sure it got all blended nice. I did a few taste tests. I try not to get it too hot because I'm not a fan of hot. Mark likes it hot, so we try to get a little bit so that we're both comfortable with it. Anyway, the chili is done, and I'm canning it up now. Okay, so I managed to get 6 full quarts and one that's 3/4 full. So the one that's 3/4 full will go in the refrigerator. We'll have it tonight for dinner with a slice of pizza. So right now I'm just going to stir each one of these up to debubble and make sure that I have an inch headspace. And just use a chopstick for that. And I do the inch headspace by eye. I just, you know, I don't need to measure it. I've been doing this forever. I see this one could use a little bit more, so I'll be taking it from there. But yeah, it's a nice consistency between each of the jars as well. So I'm just gonna do, oh that's hot, yes, which is fine. Okay, that should do it. Just a little bit in here. Now this one could go in the refrigerator, and it's just gonna have a plastic cap because we're not gonna can this one. And I have prepared 6 lids. I've got them in hot water, just soaking a little bit. I've got my dish with vinegar to wipe the rims here. And with chili, you especially want to make sure the rims are clean. You don't want any residue, whether it's greasy or the tomatoes, or whatever. You don't want any residue on the edges here, because that will prevent a seal. So, got my little magnetic lifter, and I forgot to get some rings. Let me get some rings. They're pretty much handy anyway, so. Okay, so 6 rings. And I've got my canner set up here. I've got 3 quarts of water, and always add a little tad more. The 3 quarts of water is the recommendation for this particular one. And I've got that set up, and I used hot water because the chili itself is hot. So you don't want a serious fluctuation in temperature between the canner and what you're putting in it. Now this one here, like it sat for a few minutes while I was preparing other things, so the edges here were a little crusty, and I want to make sure it's good and clean. Do that again. Once again, the only thing that'll prevent a good seal is if you don't do that right. Okay. And chili does have some grease from the meat, so you want to make sure you get that all clean. Okay. There we go, the last two. Finger tight. You don't want this too tight. You want the air expelled from the jar, and if you have this too tight, that can't happen. So what happens is that the air does get expelled from the jar, forces the lid down, and seals it. Okay. And that is 6 jars. As I said, I could have fit one more. I'm putting the balance of the vinegar in my canner, and I do that in order to keep the minerals from the water off the outside of the jar, so it keeps them clean and instead of a cloudy look. Okay, I'm done. Now, I'm going to put the lid on this, and I'm going to get it up to a boil, and then after that we will make sure it gets vented. Okay, there we go. So when this comes to a boil, we have to let this vent for a full good 10 minutes. Now the other thing you should do is peek through that little outlet and make sure that outlet is clear, that it's not clogged. This is a fairly new canner. I've only used it once or twice, so let me just double check, and that's why it's so tight here. Yes, you want to be able to see daylight out of that little vent. Okay, so everything is put in my canner. The 6 jars, the one that was left over went in the fridge, you know, the 3/4 full one. And as I said, you have to let this vent for a full 10 minutes, and it is venting. And I'm going to set my timer now for 10 minutes. And one of the other ways that you know that it's venting is that you have this little thing at the back that pops off. And that just tells you that the pressure is, it's pushed up, so the air is being vented. So you've got to allow this, once again, to expel the air, because that's what it's doing. It's expelling the air from the unit so that it builds up pressure, so that it's actually cooking at a higher pressure, and that's why you call them pressure cannons. So it is cooking at a higher pressure. I believe it's, it's higher pressure than what you would normally just from boiling on the stove in a regular pot. Now we want to get my unit up to 10 pounds pressure, and I do have a gauge here, so that'll give me an indication. Like, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close on. But I also have a little 10-pound pressure weight, and that's that unit here. Now this unit is an extra accessory, so that itself is 5 pounds. This is another 5 pounds, and there's a third ring, so you can get it up to 15 pounds pressure. Now from where I am, where I live, 10 pounds pressure is what I need. So you have to adjust it for your altitude, for the altitude above sea level. And we're below 1,000, so the 10 pounds pressure is adequate. So I've got my timer on, and I know this is venting. I know you can't see it, but there is steam coming from here. And give it a full 10 minutes. When that is done, we put this little guy on to stop it from venting, so it seals it. And then we pressure cook this for 90 minutes for chili in quart-sized jars, 75 minutes for chili in pint jars. So that is the ratio. And then I just turn it off, leave it, let everything cool down nice and slowly and gently. So let the whole thing come down, let it cool naturally, then I take the lid off. I may wash the jars, take the rings off when everything's cool, and put it in my pantry. Okay, my timer has just gone off. This is vented for a full 10 minutes, and it is hot steam coming off there. So now I'm going to prevent the steam from escaping at this point. Turn my timer off, and we'll wait till the pressure reaches 10 pounds. And the other way is to, these are both going to let me know when we're up to 10 pounds. This will start rocking gently. Okay, that's the nice thing about this one. It just kind of rocks like this, and the gauge will show 10 pounds. So whenever we're close, it's perfect. Then we start the timer again for 90 minutes because I have quart jars in here. Okay, as you can see, this is rocking a little bit too much, and I'm just beyond 10 pounds pressure. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a bit to try to get it just to about 10 pounds. I think we're at like 11, maybe 12, which isn't going to do any harm, but we want this to just rock a little gentler, and just at 10 pounds. So once the temperature drops just a bit, then 10, 11 pounds is just fine. But I just wanted to show you that yes, you may have to drop the temperature just a bit. Okay, so that's it. Now the timer is set for 90 minutes, and once it's done, we just turn the stove off and just let everything cool down slowly and naturally. That is it.